It was, and they will be planted like trees with living water, and the beasts of the field and the birds of the air, right? You guys remembering this passage? Beasts of the field come under its branches, the birds of the air nest in its branches. And I've been wondering for a long time, there's something in that means something. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is a personal encounter. This is not like scriptural revelation. I've never looked it up. I don't know if there's 50,000 other people who agree with me or not a single one. This is like a personal encounter kind of experience, okay? So I feel the Lord saying, your agreement with me is like a tree. You become tree-like. And beasts of the field are people. It's the natural world around you. And the angelic host are birds of the air. And any agreement that's with me is going to attract spiritual likeness. And it's going to attract the people who also are wanting to live under the canopy of that kind of an agreement. Does that make sense? So when we agree about something, let's say regarding finance, let's take it out of the world of spiritual and into the world in finance. Let's say you're starting a business and it's in the financial world and you partner up with Jared because he knows finance and technology and business and whatever, and he knows and what he doesn't know, he knows people. He knows people who know people, right? So you partner up with Jared and you'll discover that what happens, all of a sudden you start attracting people who have similar likes, similar interests, similar things, but not all of them have the same, can I describe, energy. Not all of them have the same motives, not all the same intention. And you start to discern, as people start being attracted to the thing that you're doing, that there'll be those that stay around you and those that are repelled by you. That is the power of agreement. Our agreement makes us like a living organism that's bigger than ourselves. And it attracts the very people to us that want to live under that kind of a canopy or in partnership with other people. That's what we're here. That's what Desert Outpouring is. We have all come into an agreement that we want to be powerful, magnificent people, our true selves, who God made us to be. And we want to do that with other people who want to do the same thing. And we no longer want to live in obedience and principle. We want to live in the life of relationship. Right? So that is part of the canopy that exists here. That agreement with God is what creates a space where we can all run faster here together than we can run on our own. Our agreement with the hurts of the past also create trees. Because when spiritual partners of God came into certain places, they would cut down the high places. They would cut down the actual trees that were representative of the partnership with not God. A partnership to use and abuse poor people. A partnership to abuse a whole portion of humanity so that a few people could live good and everyone else become the servants. A partnership with religious oppression. They would cut down those things as a representation of cutting down the very agreements. The partnership with people, because who makes all of these agreements manifest here on earth? We do. God entrusted this earth to have dominion, and the dominion was given to us. It's our agreement with goodness, our agreement with forgiveness, or our agreement with pain and hurt and harm and lack that manifests that reality. And then we attract the very spiritual partners and the people based on those agreements. And then we're trying to figure out why we keep reliving the self-fulfilling prophecy. Right? So if we have one harm or hurt that we were unaware of, and do you mind just drawing a little tree right here, like a tall one right here? If we have a harm or a hurt that we are unaware of, but we are still attached and tied to it, and we have been in agreement with it. Okay, do you know what tree this is? Hang on.
It's a Christmas tree.
My husband, we've been having tree problems in our house because we had to switch to a fake tree. So we've had to repay for lights over and over and over again. So Greg decided today, he goes, Ange, this is the perfect Christmas tree for us.
Do you know why?
Well, he'll show you why. He's bringing it. Yeah. There's a reason why this tree is the perfect tree for us.
Because it stores in this tube.
Yeah. There
That's my storage committal.
That's the tube.
That's why.
Yeah. Convenience of storage is the key for Greg on all things, right? Like, as long as it doesn't take his garage space, where he wants to store the important things, like motorcycles and, tools and that kind of stuff.
And motorcycle-related
Anyway,
things.
So funny. So, if we're not aware of the tree-like partnerships that have happened in our life, even due to harm, even due to hurt, we can live in the consequences of a spiritual partnership in our branches, and it almost beckoning to repeat the story over and over again until that agreement changes. And we are released from the harm that was done, and we become blessed so that we can become a blessing, so that we can step into a whole different partnership. Because we were never meant to have a partnership that harms us and harms others. That was never, ever the intention for who we are. The intention was, I believe God said, let us make man and woman, humanity, in our image, like us. And they will be fruitful, and multiply. And they will be in partnership and relationship with each other and have dominion. And all that is evil will be overcome with good. Not with fighting, not with resisting, not with dominating, not with violence. Evil will be overcome with good. So there is this magical realism moment where God is allowing us to become aware of the voice that is operating in our lives that became an agreement. And I mentioned this last week, my own recognition of my own protector. A partnership that I had, that I came into agreement. It was a voice that helped me navigate life and be really smart. And that voice would always point out the faults of others and the potential harm. And it's super, super smart. And someone pointed out to me, they were like, well, at least you're not talking this way about somebody. And I said, oh no, the voice inside my head is way too sophisticated for that, right? We don't allow those voices anymore. We don't allow those, flat out, let's just demolish this person, let's harm. It becomes sophisticated. But it's nevertheless not an agreement with God. And anything less than agreement with our true, authentic selves and an agreement with God is a partnership that leads to all of this. It leads to lack. It leads to harming others when we don't want to. And it's that partnership that we've gotten into as a protection. We stepped into it wanting to protect ourselves from the very harm we were experiencing at the moment. So I felt the Lord say, the trees are the biggest plant life, on the planet, which I was like, oh, is that really true? And I looked it up and it was true. And he said, it is symbolic of the greatest of its kind. And he said, when one person agrees with God, it is the greatest of its kind. It's the greatest of its kind. That kind of agreement is the kind of agreement that entire nations, one person's agreement with God, can influence. And I loved the song you picked, Jocelyn, we're calling forth angels. Watchmen, angels, standing on the wall, that is our partnership, is the angelic host. in these spiritual realms where we get to watch magical realism and reality meet. So, what do you think? This is just something else.
You only need like one light on that thing too.
It's true.
It's
just the thing of
it's
beauty.
just so many ways. This is like the perfect Christmas tree.
It's like the leg lamp. It's like the leg lamp, babe. A special award.
I like that one a lot more than that.
Right. Oh, would you feel so sad? Right, right, exactly. So good. So, yeah, I would love to have a response.
So I had several weeks in a row where I was that voice of agreement that was not in agreement with God, but just was my protector voice, had been doing a lot of manifesting, and it was leading to a lot of panic. And you guys saw that a couple weeks in a row where I was just kind of in a panic. And anyway, through some fellowship and through some listening to the Lord, I've had a really amazing breakthrough that just kind of blows me away. And it really, and I don't know that I would have used the word forgiveness, but today I realized that's really what it was. Is I did this thing where I actually thanked that voice for protecting me, and let it know that I, as a grown-up, that I didn't need that insight that voice was trying to give me, that quote unquote insight. And it kind of, I've shared this now with a couple of different people, and the best way that I can tell it to you is, I don't know, anybody here ever read the book, the KonMari book of organization? You know, it's like that Japanese lady who has a cult following now with, the joy of, right. So she has this principle where if you have something, all of us have things that we don't need anymore, but we're hanging on to them for whatever reason, like we spent money on it, or it came from our great Aunt Susie, or whatever it meant to us, that it has value for some reason that really is not serving us anymore, but we hang on to it. And she says, just thank it for what it's done, and then, pass it on. And I was able to do that. It was my form of forgiveness. So I was able to take some things that had been telling me a story about my life and say, you know what, thank you for all the ways in which you have protected me up until now, but I actually don't need that anymore. I'm good without it. I'm going to be fine, and I am really grateful for how you did serve me, but it's time to go. And I don't know that I would have used the word forgiveness to describe that, but I see now that that's exactly what it was, that I forgave myself, maybe I forgave all the people that were the perpetrators that caused me to have that voice in my head. Anyway, whatever it is, it just feels like that's exactly what happened to me, that there was a partnership that was a switch. Like, I'm no longer partnering with that voice, but I'm now partnering with an agreement about something that's more true, something that's more real. I don't think I have enough words yet to explain it, but I love that word partnership, and the way in which, gosh darn it, I'm going to just read it, okay? We were never meant to have partnership with that thing that harms us or others, but our partnership is in agreement with God, who, this is the greatest of its kind when one person agrees with God. So I know I said too many things that didn't really fit together, but I see it. I just wish I could say it better.
You did great, Ann. You did great. You got it. You got it. We've thrown out this word forgive, and it's got so much convoluted meaning that sometimes God lets go of some language and introduces us to new language. And so having the freedom to release a voice that compels us is really at the heart of the magic of what it is that's happening in this spiritual reality. Because the Lord is going, let me introduce you to the powerful you. Let me introduce you to the you that's not compelled by anything, that has the freedom to choose to respond in all things. Let me introduce you to your true spirit, which has self-control, the ability to not be controlled by anything else. No longer compelled, no longer reactionary, no longer forced into a prescribed set of responses, but having the autonomy to choose your response in any moment. That's this shift into a place of agreement with God and agreement with our true selves. So, yay! Yay! Okay, we're going to have you come up and then help us partner with practicing hearing God, because that's the super important part of this whole thing, is like hearing Him in the first place and having cool encounters. So thanks, Jared.
Cool. And
I'm
since
gonna-
I